Hello, hello. Hola, 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 amigos, amigas. Welcome to Lima again. Welcome to your home here in Lima, Peru, the capital of this beautiful country that is also a place of lots of stories, histories that are most of them untold, not very well defined around the world. So, in this series from home, we are always talking about different chapters of the history of Peru that are not well known. And in today's occasion, we are going to talk about the diseases from pre-Hispanic times. So, what archaeology can tell us and history can tell us about the way how diseases were in Peru, which type of diseases existed, also how the diseases were seen by the indigenous of Peru, if there was any type of magic connected with those diseases or omens. So we're going also to talk about this and if these diseases still exist nowadays. So before we begin, we still have 1 minute to begin. Let me say thanks to the people that are joining. Hola, Marilyn. Hola, Cari. Thanks for coming. Muchas gracias, amiga. Gracias. Terry. Hola, ¿qué tal, Terry? How are you? Thanks for coming, amiga. Caroline. Hola, Johnny. JB. Hola. Hello. Thanks for being here today. And thanks for your interest in Peruvian history and Peruvian culture. I wanted just to say hi first to you all, and well, to see if you had any question before we begin, about this topic or something you would like me to cover during today's event that is related with the subject of diseases in pre-Hispanic times. So this lecture that I have prepared for you all is, of course, based in archaeological evidences. There's nothing about a speculation in this event of today. There are events that are more in the field of the speculation, and if you like those type of events, I want just to tell you before we go with this one that there's one coming very soon. It's already posted in the calendar, in my calendar on Heygo, about the connections between Peru and China, but from the pre-Hispanic times. So that's going to be really interesting because I'm sure most of you had no idea there was a possibility of something like that happening before the conquest of this territory by the Spanish. So if you can, please follow my channel if you haven't yet, and also join that event that is happening very, very soon. Well, I think we're going to begin. We are about to start with this event. Not before thanking you also for coming. Gracias, Caroline, for the follow. Also, if you would like to support this channel and support this event at any time during the event, you can also do it with a tip. There's a tip button that I am activating here for you to see what it is. The platform of Heygo is completely free and nobody is charged anything to join the events, and I really like that. We guys love that because in that way more people can come to join, to see these events, to learn from guides and experts from all over the world. But also, we are not paid by Heygo. We are just paid with your generosity and your tip support. So if you are able, because I know not everybody is able always to do that, if you're able to do that, to support with a tip, well, that would be super wonderful. Also, you can become a sponsor of this channel with a fee of $10 once a month. And as a way of reward, I'm giving away 2 books that I'm writing. They are books in process yet, but access to these books is granted to you all. One is a cookbook of Peruvian food, and the other one is a book about Lima. It's a guidebook of Lima. And also, I am doing private Spanish lessons for my sponsors. So that is a way to say thanks to you if you are on board of this sponsorship program. So muchas gracias. Thanks a lot. Kari, you are saying that you work in healthcare industry. Oh my gosh, Kari, that's lovely. So I'm sure you're going to find this event really fascinating. I hope you will enjoy it. especially you, Cari, that have been dedicated to this field for so long, and understanding also how the people of the past in Peru so medicine, so well the importance of treating diseases, preventing diseases also is I think fabulous, right? So I think we're going now to begin with this event. So fasten your seatbelts. Let's start. So I'm going to switch my camera, flip it to the other side. I'll turn off the light over here, and then we're going to face the computer. So we're going to see images and a series of slideshows that will give us an idea of how the diseases were seen in pre-Hispanic times. Also, here's my website if you would like to give it a look later. So the topic of today is related with the medicine in pre-Hispanic times in Peru, but also can be applied to other parts of the Americas, where societies were developed, like where there was an advanced, let's say, development in terms of societies. When the Spanish came to these territories at the end of the 15th century, early 16th century, for Peru was in the year 1532 when they reached out the territory of Peru. They were fascinated about what they saw. They were fascinated of the advances that people had in these territories, from the architecture that was very advanced, to the way how they knew about, for example, the stars, and the navigation, the sailing in the sea was so effective. The ships they had were quite big also, and they were able to travel long distances. Another thing that they were very surprised was about the medicine. So magic and medicine. Peruvian medicine was dominated by magic. According to Peruvian indigenous, the people of Peru, diseases were considered punishments sent by the gods, most of the times for having transgressed, let's say, rules or religious laws. No? Maybe because of their crimes, for example, impiety, violations, or taboos that were not supposed to be transgressed. So something important is that, for example, the altitude sickness, which is something most people feel in the Andes, and when you travel to the Andes, for example, it is called soroche, by the way, by the indigenous Peru, was considered to be the influence of evil winds, that in a way also cause you feel sick. What you are seeing in this image, by the way, is a recreation of how a procedure that was very, very delicate happened. And this procedure is called the trepanations, skull trepanations. The skull trepanation was an opening in the skull that was made to, probably this is still in the field of speculation, because well, we don't know exactly how they did it and why they did it. But it's believed that probably it was connected with an initiation into the shamanic world, like a person that wanted to be a shaman or become a shaman or a spiritual leader, had to pass through this stage in which an opening in the skull was made, and probably some spirits, for example, got inside through this process. Also, another understandable answer could be the fact that maybe this was a cure for some diseases, mental diseases, or some type of treatment for migraine, headaches, or even a treatment for an accident caused by maybe a warfare, maybe a confrontation. So it is important to believe or understand that for the pre-Hispanic people, diseases were some type of curse, some type of possession also by spirits. So they were considered to be signs of God's not feeling happy with what we were doing, right? So also the pre-Hispanic people were worshippers of the sun, the moon, the mountains, the lightning. That was usually in the Andes. In the coast, the coastal people of Peru were worshippers of the ocean. They consider her to be the mother, creator of life. Also, it's very important to understand that they were in a world connected with magic. Like everything was connected, with magical elements. Nothing really was like scientifically explained. Like they were very advanced in many things, in many let's say fields. But for them, the magic, or their religion was always aligned to all the activities they did. So when the Inca was the king, the ruler, sort of like a what we will call a king, but he was not just a king. The Inca was the leader that was also the descendant of the sun. He was the son of the sun, right? So he was a demigod. So when the Inca fell ill, the disease of the Inca was attributed to serious offenses committed by the subjects of the Inca. Because the Inca was considered to be the son of the sun, so he couldn't make any mistakes, right? He was a perfect person. He was a divinity. So, but he represented the people. So, if the people committed something wrong, did something wrong, they could cause the illness to the Inca. Mhm. So we were talking about the trepanations, right? So there is a big possibility of a rank of possibilities in terms of what made the people of the ancient Peru to trepanate skulls. One of the reasons also, which is very interesting, is the fact that in some parts of the country and in some cultures, it was a tradition to deform the skulls of babies. So the skulls of the children were deformed to look in such way that for them they will look like divine, or they will be connected with some ruling groups, or let's say social sphere that was completely different to the other one that was the common people, the commoners. So probably the skulls deform at some point, create some pressure in some sections of the brain that eventually cause some probably migraines, headaches, and problems that were long lasting. So maybe this was also a way to release those pains. It would be hardly possible now to know exactly, because nobody is going to pass through this process of being modified in their skull. But there is a possibility that this was the source of the problem. So in this case, this was probably a disease that was caused by these deformations on the skulls, a defect that was caused by the deformation of the skull. So the medicines and cures from the plants were discovered from traditional empirical observation. The indigenous doctors use herbs, for example, which their efficiency was tested over, the experience. So, of course, there was a time in which someone had to try a new herb and probably get ill or even die from testing those plants. But we're talking about thousands of years of constant, let's say, failure, error, and trying again and finding plants that will be helpful for different diseases. So the Spanish literature from the colonial period, from the early conquest and colonial times, not just in Peru, also in Mexico, in nowadays North American section, and here in this territory where the Incas were, says that, or reveals that the Spanish had great respect for the doctors, the let's say medicine men of these locations. So the chronicles mention that they were really fascinated how the indigenous doctors treat diseases. For example, there was say a priest who came with the conquistadors, Father Bernabé Cobo, mentioned that what they were experts in, the indigenous, was healing wounds. Also, they were very good, he said, the indigenous, in healing wounds. And the use of the herbs was fascinating. That remedy looks worse than the disease. Oh, well, Casey, thanks for your comment. Seems something very interesting about the trepanations that uh, nowadays, for example, no, we think, oh my God, that must have been terrible, right? Like opening the skull for, like releasing maybe some type of hematoma, no, a clot, blood clot that could be a cause of an accident, or the use of a club in the skull. But draining that clot of blood was really the best thing that someone could do back in that time, because that could give this person the opportunity of surviving. And one of the things we know that the doctors use of that time use to allow the patient to survive, not dying of the pain, of something like this could happen or could made on you, was given lots of chicha to the person that was being operated. Chicha is a alcoholic drink made from corn. So this person probably was drunk, so much that he was passed out. And also some hallucinogenical plants probably were used in the benefit of the person who was, let's say, in the operation room, let's say. Also, another thing that is surprising is that in many cases, we see in the skulls of the people who were put under trepanation, that they were able to survive. Yes, Casey, like an anesthetic. Exactly, exactly. Great comment. Because the growth of the bone is seen. So the bone has grown. And this only can happen if the person is alive. The bone cannot grow after the death of someone. So, meaning that these people were able to survive, in some cases, multiple trepanations. Oh, and if we compare this to the, let's say, medieval medicine, the same one the Spanish were still using back in the time when they came to the New World, well, the opportunities to survive, let's say, a trepanation there and here, here were bigger than in Europe. So because of this, like a system. So also the herbs used, and several other techniques that even nowadays we don't know. So, but unfortunately, amigos, when the Spanish conquest came, also their religion came. And this means that the people that were here in the times of the 16th century, the conquistadors who were here in the 16th century, they were bringing a new religion, and they had their own fears about anything new that they were seeing the indigenous were doing here. So it is known that the Spanish burned documents with medical information in Mexico. And yes, well, this is well known. And in Peru, although we didn't have an approved or let's say written system, we had quipus. Quipu is a knotted system, a system of codes with knots that was used as a mnemotechnic system to remember quantities like things, but also there are specialists that have found enough information to say that the quipus were sort of like a writing system. So well, this pre-Hispanic, let's say, system had also probably information that was gone after these quipus were burned. So well, this information was lost permanently, and that's why we always get into some level of speculation when we try to know exactly how some treatments were done. So we just can go to, let's say, other type of documentations. Most of the times we have to go for the recreations of this, how the diseases were treated, to the Spanish and the documents they made. Although the Spaniards didn't really know everything, no? They just were able to take notes on the things they could understand, or how they perceive them. So, well, here you can see also a quipu extended The quipus were very complex. This is known as the knotted system. It's a recording system that we know very well the Incas used, but only the people of certain hierarchy, not the commoneers, of course. The commoneers is the same like in Europe, in medieval Europe. In medieval Europe, only the priests knew how to read and write. The same happened here with the quipus or any other written system that we had back then. By the way, if you would like to know more about the different written systems in the country, in Peru, before the coming of the conquistadors, let me know, because I would like to make a special event about those, right? Not just the quipus, we had several other. So, uh, yes, Cari. Okay, I'll do it. Thank you. Oh, that's great, Casey. That's great, Marilyn. And I'm really like serious. There were several systems, several that now archaeologists and specialists have been able to recopilate and even in some cases understand. So that I promise that's going to come very soon, amigas. So now we're going to talk about the way how we've been able to date the different, let's say, skulls and like remains of pre-Hispanic people in back in time. No? So of course, carbon 14 has been used. As you know, carbon 14 is a method of high precision. No? The radioactivity of the living beings is constant, as long as we can be in the outside world. But when we die and we get buried, the radioactivity of the body, let's say, it starts to vanish, little by little. It decreases spontaneously, and its disintegration is constant. It's in a constant speed. So we lose carbon like by the time passes. So carbon 14 is a way to know, counting how much carbon is left in a, let's say, a bone, organic material. We can understand how old was buried, no, this entity, this animal, this person, right? So, but also, well, who recognizes this? Who can tell me? Oh, gracias, Caroline. Thanks for your tip support, amiga. Muchas gracias. So I would like to know if any one of you can recognize what is this. You can guess. Don't worry. You can guess. This is really a good way to. Yes, Sam, muy bien. Yes, Marilyn, excellent. It is true. It is poop. In the medical, let's say, slang, the name of the poop, petrified like this, or the feces, exactly. Muy bien, Cari. It's a little more elevated, word. Is coprolites. So the coprolites, coprolitos also. Hola, Susie. Thanks for coming. The coprolitos or coprolites are, yes, is poop. In this case, of course, we're talking about diseases in the pre-Hispanic times. So, of course, it belongs to humans. This is an additional source of consultation by specialists to learn about the diet of the pre-Hispanic people, in the times we're talking about, for example, before the Spanish conquest, and also to learn about the parasites that could have infestated, the bodies of these people. Of course, we coexist with those parasites, humans, animals, but this is a really great way to understand, the health of the people in that time. So I'll try to more the light. Okay, so now we're going into something even more interesting. So it is important to mention that back in the pre-Hispanic times, the blind people, the disabled people were protected by the Inca state and the Incan society. So in these regards, for example, we have chroniclers like Guamán Poma de Ayala that tells that in Cusco, for example, the Inca ruler, he decided that the blind people or the people who were, for example, dwarves, or who had specific diseases like cleft lip palate, to be separated in zones where they could unite or marry among the people of their own, let's say, the same situation. So in that way, they will not disappear. They will continue existing. So why this tradition happened in the pre-Hispanic times? It is very hard to know exactly, because we don't have now a direct descendant of the Incas to tell us, but it's been speculated that it was believed that they were people touched by the gods. So they were somehow of representation of gods, of deities, right? And they were even considered to be of certain, magical powers, right? So they are healers, for example, like blind people were put to do the work of healers, for example. Also, it's really interesting to see that there was this level of acceptance on these of these people, no? And respect on these people, because nowadays in many parts of the world, they are completely segregated from the society. No, in the case of the Incas, they had a special place, and they were considered to be natural healers, even foretellers. Yes, Carrie, of course. Yes, yeah, I do agree with you. So we have also some things to learn from the Incas, no, and the pre-Hispanic people. And in this image, this is a colonial image, by the way. It's not pre-Hispanic, but it's from the early colonial period, in which we can see the representation of a koya. What was a koya? A koya was the wife of the king. So the king was the Sapa Inca, or the Inca, and the wife of the Inca was the koya. Her name was Chimpo Mama Cava. So Guamán Poma de Ayala also comments in his book, The New Chronicle and the Good Government, from the 17th century. So it was a very, very, it is important document for us, because it describes this transition from being an Inca, territory, to an Spanish territory, or a territory conquered by Spanish. He depicts in one of the pages of his book this queen, no? She was the wife of the Inca Capac Yupanqui. So something important is that she's presented as a schizophrenic. She looks like sick. As you can see, she is almost in the floor, and in the description of this image, Guaman Poma mentions that she used to scratch her face, or pull her hair, right? So much, and she did such type of, like let's say, uncomfortable, things for the Inca, that the husband of the queen, or the Inca king, disowned her, no, and married another sister, right? So this manifestation of, like probably some type of schizophrenia, no, could be described nowadays, or is explained nowadays, as an epileptic psychosis. Oh. So unfortunately, back then, of course, these mental diseases were really not understood. And that's something, of course, is it's understandable. No? We're talking about the 15th century, the 14th century, no? So we have also another case that is interesting, and this is another Inca, Yaguarhuaca. So Yaguarhuaca, his Quechua name, the translation into English means, or is connected with eyes that bleed, right? So it seems that he had an eye disease, and an eye disease that was very, very common back in the pre-Hispanic times. Conjunctivitis, in Spanish, conjuntivitis. So this disease was probably common, especially in the coast of Peru, because of the winds from the desert that were very, very strong. And they have probably caused, even at some point, blindness in the eyes of people after getting like these infections. No? So, for example, in the case of this Inca, no, he was the first born son of the Inca Roca, and he was very, very sick of this disease early in his life when he was very little. The way how he was treated was a very interesting way. The Spanish were able also to recopilate this medicine that they later used with effectiveness. The Incas used fresh meat of vicuña or vicuna. Is an animal that is connected with the llamas, with the alpacas. So the fresh meat of this animal was put in the eye, and they said, this caused immediate, let's say, sort of like the bloating of the eyeballs and a soon recovery. All right, so very interesting to see that there was a disinflammation process done with this strange type of meat, which is very, very difficult to be found. By the way, the vicuña is a wild animal. So it was not easy for these people to be able to have vicuñas, and they were considered to be also precious, and sort of like connected with the gods as well. And there is also another story. I'm trying to also share with you some, let's say, documented diseases. This one here is one of the latest diseases, in the history that I'm presenting you. And it happened to this lady, Francisca Enriquez de Rivera. So this story is recopilated from a book from Ricardo Palma in his Peruvian traditions. She was the wife of a viceroy, one of the many viceroys we had in Peru. And she was a victim of a disease that includes some types of fevers, some types of tremors in her body. So nobody really knew exactly what was happening. But nowadays, it seems that the disease was understood as plasmodium, a type of protozoan disease transmitted by the bite of the female mosquito Anopheles. So probably this mosquito, it was incubated in humid areas in the north coast of Peru where she was attacked by this disease, because that zone has lots of marshlands. So probably she was bitten by this mosquito, and that's why she got very ill. She was like close to be dead at some point. But an indigenous person taught one of the priests, one of the Jesuits who was with her, the cure of this disease. And the cure of this disease is a tree called quina. If you have heard about the quinina or quinine, the quinine comes from the quina tree, which I have posted actually here in this section. Probably you see this coat of arm. By the way, this is the coat of arm of Peru. And the coat of arm of Peru is divided in three fields. This one is the vicuña. We were talking about the vicuña, right? And here we have the quinina or quinine in the tree of quina. And then we have a cornucopia. It's a shell with golden coins. Just to give you an idea that how important either the vicuña or vicuna and the quina are for Peru, so much that they are in the coat of arm of Peru. So this indigenous doctor taught the Jesuit men who finally made the let's say the medicine to this the wife of the viceroy, that the external part of the tree of quina, which is like a very, very delicate husk that you can detach from the trunk of the tree very easily, had to be boiled. And once boiled, the quinine was extracted, and that water, once drink it, kill those parasites in the body of this lady. So that's how she was able to recover. And since then, the quinine was used to treat diseases like malaria. Exactly, yes, exactly, Marilyn. That is the disease. So I'm so glad that you know already about this disease, and now you know the quinine, no? And the origin of this story. And now I would like to tell you a little bit more about some other diseases of that time, which were very common. Some of them are diseases which were caused by like viruses or bacterial diseases, and some others were more connected with genetic charges, loads that were passed, no? To generation. So, for example, here we have some of those diseases. Tetanus in Peru was called quechohuaca, oh, and the headaches, uma nanay. Uma is head, nanay is pain, head pain, headache. Samai piti refers to pneumonia. Songho nanay, intestinal colic. Pukiuskas is a dropsy for the Incas. No? It's a type of accumulation of liquids inside the body. Facial paralysis was recognized by the Peruvians in pre-Hispanic ceramics, and was even portrayed in pre-Hispanic ceramics, which are very well, like exposed in different museums around the world. Leprosy, for example, that's another disease that existed here. Uta, or Peruvian wart, is another disease which had a reappearance, a comeback in Peru, because for a long time was not seen in between the time of the coming of the Spaniards until the 19th century, when we started to open, let's say, trails to put railroads in the Andes, and zones which were completely isolated for long periods of time now were visited by people, and that's the moment when the disease reappeared in the 19th century. We have the Hutchinson teeth also, which is caused by syphilis, and the saddle nose. You can see examples of this both diseases, the Hutchinson teeth here and the saddle nose over here, for example. And they are both represented in pre-Hispanic diseases. Cleft lip also represented as well. Spinal tuberculosis disease, which is an spinal infection, and also conjunctivitis. Those were very common diseases. Here are some examples of diseases which now are very well documented, and of course, many of them are still fudged, by doctors nowadays. But in the pre-Hispanic times, they existed in Peru and were represented in ceramics. These ceramics, for example, date back to the time of the Mochica culture. This culture appeared around the beginnings of Christian era and existed until the year 700 of our era. And you can see how meticulously the details of these diseases were represented in these ceramics, which were buried in the tombs of the people that were usually of certain high status. So we can see from I'm also putting the names of each one of the diseases: lumbar kyphosis, strabismus, cleft lip, thyroid orbitopathy. We have also facial paralysis. And I mentioned also in the beginning that there are many vessels with these representations, like clearly representing paralysis, which we don't know exactly what could have caused those. We have also Equino's foot. We have Siamese twins represented, Cruzon's syndrome. We have Seckel syndrome, Bartholinosis, Leishmaniasis, which is also produced by a insect, or it's a disease produced or transmitted by an insect. syphilis. Syphilis also has its own space, no? Because many people believe that syphilis was introduced after the conquest. But no, we had a variety of syphilis in the Americas, and it's very well documented this. And also there are evidences in skulls, not just in pottery, that show the same signs of syphilis, including, these holes, this sort of like a area in the forehead of the people who were affected by the disease, almost eaten by the disease of the syphilis. And in the case of this particular pottery, even these bubas, or this, let's say, opening, like very, very, it looks very, very hurting, like balls that are exposing also the flesh, so really sad disease. And we know that it existed in the pre-Hispanic times before the coming of the conquistadors. uh, of course, visual impairments, obesity, one eye, people with problems with one eye, or one eye not functioning, mutilation of the lower limbs also, and mutilation of the upper limbs. I have consulted many, many documents and books also for this event to give you an idea of some of these diseases. I will turn just for a moment the camera to show you some of them. Let me just turn on first the light and then turn the camera to me. Hello, hello again. So Larco Museum has an excellent collection of potteries, which date back, most of them, to the Mochica times. Also, you can see also in this. This is the collection, no? Or most of the pieces of the collection. And many of the pictures I was able to share are from this book, which is really a great, it's a catalog of the whole museum, and also about sexuality and syphilis in particular. This book, which is also very insightful, is about sexuality in pre-Hispanic times. If you would like me to do something about sexuality in pre-Hispanic times, also please comment. I would like to know if you're interested. So yes, Carrie, woohoo. Casey, muchas gracias. Thanks for your tip support. Gracias, JV. Thank you so much. I will definitely proceed with that one. Also, I want to invite you to my next event, which is about the connections, or the possible connections, between the Incas and pre-Inca societies with the ancient Chinese. No, was there any possibility that China conquered Peru before the Spanish? Well, I know this lays on the field of speculation, but it's going to be so much fun and interesting to share with you all the information I was able to recopilate for this very special event that is coming very soon for us all in Hago. If you would like to know more of my events, I always talk about the untold history, things that are very hard to find, to be found online in internet. Please follow my channel, give me a follow, and also join to my events. All of my events are well documented. And if you want me to give you links and also the links of consultation, just send me a message and I will pass you all the links. I want you to learn more about Peru and the this part of the world, and in that way I'm sure you're going to understand us much better. Thank you, Marilyn, for your tip support. Thank you, amigos, for your tip support. Gracias, Casey. Gracias, Cari. Here's my Hago channel. You are all welcome. Gracias, Peggy. And also, I would like to thank you in advance for your tip support. If you don't know how to find the tip support, I am activating the button over here. As you know, these are free events and we are not paid by Hey We are paid by your generosity. So if you have the chance of supporting this event with a tip, I know it's not always possible. I know how it is living on a budget. But if you can do it, I really appreciate your support. And And also part of your tip support goes to Heygo. So it's not all coming to me. It is also being split with Heygo. You can also become my sponsor if you wish to go one step forward. To my sponsors, I'm giving private Spanish lessons on Zoom, and also access to my still in progress books. About one is cooking, a cooking book, a cookbook, and another one, the other one is a guidebook of Lima. So, well, I hope you enjoy this event. Thanks a lot for coming. Thanks a lot. I hope to see you in my Facebook group. Muchas gracias, guys. And thanks a lot for your support and your love and your friendship. Well, see you very soon, amigos, amigas. Muchas gracias. And until the next time, I hope to see you tomorrow. I have another event, so I hope to see you there. Oh, gracias, amigos. See you soon. Bye-bye. Thank you. Thank you so much. Have a lovely rest of the day.